Namaste, India. Declan McEvoy reporting in from the west coast of Ireland. Greetings to everybody in India. Greetings to anybody who embraces a spirit of adventure, whatever kind of adventure that is. Greetings in particular, of course, to my brothers and sisters in the Big Biking Commune. So nice to reconnect with you guys. And please take care of yourselves in these days of COVID-19. Please observe social distancing, stay indoors, listen to your health authorities. Together we'll get through all of this, And in Ireland, people have been saying to me, Declan, you haven't been going outside your home at all for 1 month now. How do you manage without riding motorcycles? And you can see behind me here, this is my workshop, and I am in the process of doing some long-awaited repairs here to a Honda CRF 250 lying behind me. Not only that, in fact, but for the last number of years, I have to confess that my home and the gardens and so on, very much so, have been neglected due to simply being away on the motorcycle. So with being at home for the last 4 weeks, no work, just at home, gardens looking really good, houses looking really good, bikes are getting repaired. So every cloud, in fact, I suppose you could say, has a silver lining, And people ask me, how did you get into this motorcycling crazy around the world stuff and all that you do? And in the beginning, really, for me, was probably when I was in my late 40s. Can you believe that? I returned to motorcycling after a gap of 20 years. In fact, I remember riding my first motorcycle after a 20-year gap. It was a Honda DeVille that I bought in York in the UK, and I rode it home to Ireland in the middle of a dark, dirty, wet, cold November evening, riding on the motorways through the UK, trying to find my way to the shipping port to get a ship across to Ireland. And I hadn't rode in 20 years, so I found myself riding at 40 kilometers per hour on the hard shoulder of the motorway, being passed out by trucks and buses and bread vans and horse and cart nearly. So it was a crazy situation for me. And I never at that time understood or could ever foresee the gates of adventure that I had just reopened by purchasing that motorcycle. And it has been really adventure all the way since. Beginning as soon as I got home that particular time, I was wondering, would it be possible to ride a motorcycle from the very north of Ireland to the very south, Mallinhead in the north to Mizenhead in the south? Could I do it in one day? And sure enough, it was possible. And a little bit later, I asked myself the question, would it be possible to ride through all 32 regions of Ireland in one day? And the first time I failed. And I learned at that particular occasion that, failure is not a bad thing at all, because there's a lot of lessons you can learn from failure. And when success eventually comes, it's a much better success given that you've had 1 or 2 failures to precede it, And failure also means you are pushing the limits maybe of what is possible. So having a few failures in those regards, not so bad. I've had quite a few in my motorcycling career where things just didn't happen as what I had hoped for them to happen. And later on, I found myself riding from John O'Groats to Land's End in the UK. Of course, that's the longest journey in the UK. And after that, then we have 5 children here at home and my wife. And every summer there was that argument about who's going to get the back seat of the motorcycle with Dad this summer throughout Europe. And thankfully, I and all of our family, we've been to the 4 corners of Europe, to every country from the north, south, east and west in around Europe. And it's been a great education, I must say, for our children to have been exposed to different cultures, different languages, different music, different people. It helped them to develop an appreciation and a respect and an acceptance of other cultures. Well, it's obvious that was going to happen anyway, wasn't it really? You know what we say, that travel is the university of life. And for me, where did the journey take me then beyond Europe? Of course, I started looking at Central Asia. Would that be possible? And I thought really it would be a bit pointless to ride all the way to Central Asia and to have to turn around and ride back home at some stage. So I figured, look, let's begin a journey here on a motorcycle whereby the motorcycle maybe will never come home. And I bought a €1,000 motorcycle, very old bike, maybe 15-year-old Kawasaki KLR 650, did some work on it and rode it out to Kyrgyzstan one summer after asking my bosses in work, please give me 10 weeks off work, I want to ride to Kyrgyzstan. And after that 10 weeks I returned home And I looked at the following summer, I wonder could I push it a bit further in an easterly direction on the following summer. So the following summer, would you believe, it took me then from Kyrgyzstan then through Siberia, Mongolia and the Road of Bones, across far eastern Russia to Magadan. And it was a great feeling to reach Magadan, because for me, I was after now riding the entire Eurasian continent, all the way from the west coast of Ireland, on the very west of the Eurasian continent, to Magadan in the very far east of Russia, as far as you can go going east. And that was a great feeling. And of course, the journey now had to continue. And continue it did, because on the third year, when I took 10 weeks off in summer, I managed to ride all of North America down to Costa Rica. And then in the fourth year, which was last summer of 2019, I managed to cross the Darien Gap then, and to find my way down along the west coast of South America, all the way to Ushuaia, as you should go to, and back up then to Buenos Aires, which was a jumping off point to get to Cape Town in South Africa. And the journey planned then for 2020 will be Cape Town in South Africa, back up along the west coast of Africa, back to my home in Ireland. And that will be the finish of an around the world journey. However, as you know well yourself, many things that you might plan in life may not happen. I think COVID-19 might have something to say about any such proposed journey up through Africa in August, September, October of this year. So look, let's see, Of course then, for me, one of the highlights in all of my motorcycling experience over the years has to have been, I've actually even said the word, the WOW rides back in India last November with Big Biking Commune from Goa to Mangalore, Bangalore, Kanyakumari and back up to Chennai. That experience just blew my mind, And I have to say, I have to be honest, it wasn't really about the beautiful Royal Enfield Himalayan bike that I was riding, nor really was it about the roads and the places. For me, 100%, it was about the Indian people. You guys are very, very special people. And I really found the hospitality, you're world champions of hospitality. The hospitality that I received in that trip was just second to none. And it's a trip that I will remember forever, absolutely. So from there, I suppose in Ireland, there are other things we could do in Ireland other than, planning motorcycle trips all over the world. And one thing I suppose that I got involved with in a big way here in Ireland was trying to become a really, really skilled motorcycle rider. And I did many, many, many tests. And eventually I became a motorcycling instructor. And I instructed people in advanced motorcycling techniques to help them become riders to the same standards as what police riders would be here in the British Isles. And they would have done an exam then in order to prove themselves. And the exam basically is it's a knowledge exam and it's also a skills exam. And it is the most difficult exam that a civilian can do in the British Isles. This exam is hosted by the Royal Society of Prevention of Accidents, or ROSPA as we call it. And after that, I and 2 or 3 other instructors from Ireland set up a motorcycling training academy that was free of charge to attend. If you wanted to become a really slick, polished, really progressive but very, very safe rider, you come to our motorcycling academy and we teach you free of charge. Why did we do it free of charge? We did it free of charge simply because we wanted people like ourselves to be able to go out on the road, enjoy motorcycling, and more importantly, come home to their wives and to their families alive and well to tell the story. And that is simply why we did that. And in fact, we moved on then, we set up a second organisation in Ireland called bikemarshals.ie. And bikemarshals.ie basically was a group of riders who were very, very skilled and who had come through the whole ROSPA training system. And we set up an organisation that was capable of escorting very large groups of international competitive cyclists through different competitive races in Ireland, where we were the motorcycles out in front, clearing the way, stopping the traffic, managing the roundabouts, making the whole thing 100% fluid. And to do this is like poetry in motion. To be good at it, it looks really, really well when the motorcyclists are all good at it and all tuned in exactly the same direction. From there, actually, we went and we set up a third organisation called Blood Bikes. Now, my involvement with Blood Bikes was none at all, really, if I'm to be truthful, but people from our two motorcycle training academy organisation called ROSPA, and also people from bloodbikes.ie. They came together and they formed a group called Blood Bikes. And Blood Bikes in Ireland, as the name implies, we transfer blood from one end of Ireland to the other. If blood is required in a particular hospital, like in Dublin at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it has to come from the west coast of Ireland, a rider will be available standing by 24/7 to make that blood move across the country very quickly and very efficiently. So we have 3 great groups in Ireland. It's like a triangle, because in a way we're all feeding off each other and we all use each other's services, and it's just a great camaraderie of friendships and of work put together by these 3 different organisations, you know. One of the questions was asked of me by Big Biking Commune was, so what is the toughest ride you've ever done? And I suppose I'd have to say, you know, there are many, many off-road sections that I have done down Route 40 in Argentina. I'm thinking of crossing the Salar in Bolivia. For 1 or 2 days, they were very, very difficult. But the one that really comes to mind is the Road of Bones in Far Eastern Russia, probably because it was 9 or 10 days of terrible, terrible weather, horrible rains, and dirt roads, and I covered about 6,000 kilometers of dirt in 9 or 10 days of horrible rain, and I still remember that as being so bloody tough, you know. But you do it a day at a time, and you do it the next day, and you do it the next day, and eventually you get there. Probably what made it very tough for me, really, I think, is not so much the physicality of riding the bike in those really extreme conditions, but mentally. I am normally a solo rider, and when you're a solo rider, you know, it can be difficult mentally to keep yourself together day after day after day, particularly when you're seeing nobody and you're alone only with your own thoughts, camping each and every night, and you don't have a mate to kind of, you know, lean on a little bit. That said, I wouldn't have it any other way. I think solo riding, for me, it's just fantastic. You are the architect, the engineer, and the executioner of a fantastic trip, and when it's all done and over, you are 100% the owner of it and nobody else. It is your trip and your trip only, and nobody can ever take it away from you, and that's a fantastic feeling to have, you know. Another question that was floated out there was border crossings, and God knows I've done so many of them over the years. The one thing I would say with border crossings is have the research done. You know, as an Irish citizen, or maybe as an Indian citizen, of course, the scenarios will be different, and if an Irish guy can get across the border easy, maybe the requirements for the Indian person might be a little bit different, and vice versa, of course, you know. So I would say do the research, and I'm thinking in particular of a border crossing I made in Kyrgyzstan, about 2 or 3 years ago, and I had it very well researched. Arrived at the border, handed out my passport. The guy went through every page of my passport, and he said, you have no visa. And I smiled confidently and I said, well, that's because I don't need a visa. So the research was done, and he smiled back and stamped the passport. Of course, he was testing me out a little bit. In contrast, in other places such as maybe Tajikistan, if you want to ride on the Pamir Highway, not only do you need a visa to get into Tajikistan, but you need a special permit to go to that particular part of Tajikistan where the Pamir Highway is. It's what we call a GBOA permit. And make sure you have that permit. GBAO actually, if I recall. Make sure you have that permit. So it's a matter of doing the research. That said, for me, the key ingredient to make the entire border crossing fluid is to be patient, to smile, and to be polite. And anything otherwise likely will make a problem. But I think you Indian guys will not have any problem with that, because you are so patient and you are so smiley and you are so polite. So for you, it will be second nature, you know. And another question that was floated out there to me as well, just about bike marshalling. If we had to get bike marshalling up and running in India, how do we do that, you know? Of course, to get anything up and running for the first time, yeah, it's a lot of work and a lot of research, and how do we do it, and what do we do, and what are the procedures, and so on and so forth. And it can be a bit daunting, but I would say it's a little bit like, you know, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it 1 spoon at a time. So you do one little bit at a time, and bear in mind that there are similar organisations in different parts of the world. Certainly us here in Ireland, we will be more than happy to help with that in any shape or form. And where did we get our help from in the beginning? In fact, we got it from a marshalling group in the UK. And I dare say we are nearly a much more in tune marshalling group now than the people whom we got this information from in the UK in the first place. So it takes time, it takes practice, but there is help out there. Take it one step at a time. You can really make a very, very fine organization. If you need any help, you know where I am. Small little talk about the Baikal. As some of you may or may not know, that we put a team of motorcyclists together this year, and we rode the entire length of Lake Baikal. And when I say the entire length of Lake Baikal, we rode on the surface of the lake. And you're thinking that's not possible. Well, actually, of course, it is possible if you choose to do it in the middle of winter. And in the middle of winter, there's about maybe 60 centimeters of ice on this lake. And we rode 700 kilometers, nearly 800 kilometers, in fact, on 60 centimeters of ice, right up through the middle of Lake Baikal. What happens if the ice breaks? Well, after 1 mile, you are still drowning. More than 1 mile deep. It's incredible. Personally, was I afraid? No, I wasn't actually, because we were in a group of people. I wasn't a single rider anymore, solo rider. I was in a group of people, and if I fell in, bike goes to the bottom of Lake Baikal. But yeah, I'm hoping there'll be somebody there to haul me out by the collar. And so other than that, no worries. It was very possible to do it. A crazy dream in the beginning. It was a dream I conceived about 4 years ago, camping by the shore of Lake Baikal. And now, yeah, it's done. So crazy dreams can actually turn into reality in a big way. Finally, just to say, you know, I referred to the beautiful, beautiful time that I had in India last November, my wife and I. And you know what? I would just love to be able to reciprocate that to some of you guys. And I just want to say, you know, my home, the door is open. I live in a small village called Quin, Quin, on the west coast of Ireland. We live in the middle of all the fantastic scenery. We're so convenient to it, to all of what they call the Wild Atlantic Way. Check it out, Wild Atlantic Way. And we're in the middle of it all. We're a perfect base to get to any part of it. And if anybody was ever to contact me in any shape or form and say, listen, Declan, can I have a bed for a night or two? A beer for a night or two? You know, that's what us motorcyclists are here for. That is the hospitality that I got in India. And I would only be too happy to share some of it back to you guys. That's it. That's all I have to report. Please do have a look at Ireland on the map, particularly the west coast of Ireland. Do a little bit of research. Look up for Wild Atlantic Way. Look up for Quin, Quin, in County Clare in Ireland. And remember, above all, please, please, please stay safe, stay indoors, listen to what our health people are telling us. And before long, please God, we will be through this. Take care, guys and girls. Look after yourselves.